All right, boys and girls, this is Math Message 5-5, the main math lesson of the day. And in today's lesson, we are going to use the doubling strategy to solve area problems. Okay, so yesterday we used the helper fact strategy, and today we are going to be working on a strategy called the doubling strategy. But let's get our math brains warmed up first and kind of review that helper fact strategy. Have paper, pencil, or whiteboards ready. All right, and let's go. I want you to record a helper fact for each of these facts, then use the helper fact to find the answer. All right, so pause the video, and what helper fact? I want you to find a helper fact for each of these problems for both 3 times 4 and 3 times 9. We'll go ahead and do this one together so you know what I'm asking you to do. All right, remember our helper facts are times 2, 5, or 10. Is 3 or 4 close to any of those numbers? Well, 4 is close to 5, right? So I'm going to do 3 times 5 instead and get 15. Now remember, with that helper fact strategy, now I need to either add a group or subtract a group from that answer. Well, my answer 3 times 4 should be smaller because it's a smaller number, so I know I'm going to subtract. What am I going to subtract a group of? I'm going to subtract a group of 3. So 15 minus 3 equals 12. All right, what would you use for 3 times 9? Which of these factors, 2, 5, or 10, would be close to either 3 or 9? Go ahead and pause the video and do this one on your own. All right, I would have changed the 9 to a 10 and do 3 times 10 equals 30. Now 3 times 9 is going to be smaller. It's a smaller number, so I'm going to subtract a group. What am I going to subtract a group of? I'm going to subtract a group of 3. So 30 minus 3, my answer would be 27. All right, let's go ahead and do one more set. We're going to do 6 times 4 and 9 times 6. Go ahead and pause the video and solve each of those problems using the helper fact strategy. All right, for 6 times 4, you could have done 6 times 4 a couple of different ways. You could have changed the 6 to a 5, and you could have done 5 times 4. 5 times 4 is 20. Now 6 times 4 is going to be bigger, so I'm going to add a group. What am I going to add a group of? 4 is in both problems, so 20 plus 4 is 24. Or you could have changed the 4 to a 5, and you could have done 6 times 5, which is 30. Now I would need to this time subtract a group because 4 is smaller than 5. So subtract a group. What am I going to subtract a group of? 6 is in both problems. Again, 30 minus 6 is 24. So no matter what, your answer to this one was 24. All right, and then 9 times 6. What did you decide to do for that one? And again, that could have gone 2 different ways. I could have changed the 9 to a 10, and I could have done 10 times 6 equals 60. Now, 9 times 6 is going to be smaller, so I'm going to subtract a group of 6. 60 minus 6 is 54. Or I could have changed the 6 to a 5, and I could have done 9 times 5 is 45. Now, 9 times 6 is bigger, so I'm going to have to add a group. What do I need to add a group of? Well, in that case, 9, because it's in both problems. And again, 45 plus 9 equals 54. All right, so that's just a little refresher on the helper fact strategy that we did yesterday. Today, though, we are going to specifically focus on the doubling strategy. So let's look at what that will be. All right, so now if you were in class, you'd be working with a partner, but obviously if you're doing this video at home, you won't be able to do that. And so let me get this out of the way here. It says, for an assembly, your class sets up 4 rows with 6 chairs in each row for a total of 24 chairs. Another class sets up 4 more rows with 6 chairs in each row. Now there are 8 rows of chairs with 6 chairs in each row. How many chairs are there in all? Now, if you're doing this in class, we would use our little tiles and do this, but here's what I want you to do at home. You have whiteboard or paper in front of you. I want you to go ahead and show the first class. So your class has 4 rows with 6 chairs in each row. I want you to draw an array for that, and then I want you to draw another array for the other class that has 4 more rows with 6 chairs in each row. So draw that array as well. Go ahead and pause the video and draw that out for me. Okay, so here's what your array should look like. You should have one array that has a 4 by 6, and then another array with a 4 by 6. Now, you know that 4 times 6 equals 24, right? Well, if you know that 4 times 6 is 24, and you do another 4 times 6, that's also going to be 24. So how many chairs are there all together? Well, you know that 24 plus 24, adding those together, is 48. Now, boys and girls, what would be the multiplication problem to represent that new array that you have? That would be an 8 by 6, right? So the doubling strategy is when you know, like 4 times 6 is 24, you could use that 4 times 6 is 24 to help you do 8 times 6. Because all you're doing is doubling one of those factors. And so you're just going to double your answer. All right, let's look at a couple more problems. All right, so in this problem, it says Mrs. Jones is making a room number sign for her class that is 2 inches wide and 7 inches long. So I want you to draw a sketch of the room number sign and label the side lengths. So basically, she just has a sign that looks like this little yellow rectangle here, and it is 2 inches wide, so I'm going to label it, by 7 inches long. So go ahead and pause the video, draw out your rectangle. Now, what is the area of that sign? So we know to find the area, we do the length times the width. So we have the 2 times 7, and 2 times 7 equals 14, right? Now, if I know that 2 times 7 is 14, then what if I decided to double that sign? What if I decided that Mrs. Jones decided that she needed to double that sign? So she's going to do another 2 by 7. And so we know that 2 times 7, again, is 14. So what is the area of her whole sign? Well, the top part was 14, the bottom part was 14. When I added those both together, I have 28. What is my new multiplication problem for this new rectangle here? It is now a 4 by 7, right? We didn't change this length. It's still 7, but we doubled this length. It's now 4. So I have a 4 by 7. If I know that 2 times 7 is 14, all I need to do is double that to get 4 times 7 is 28. All right, let's go ahead and turn in our workbooks to page 164. It says use the space at the bottom of the page for your sketches. Number 1 says the art table is 2 feet wide and 9 feet long. So what is the area of the art table? Let's just focus on this very first part. I want you to pause the video, go ahead and draw a sketch of that art table and label it and find the area. Pause your video. All right, so your art table should have looked something like this. You have a rectangle that's 2 feet wide and 9 feet long and wants to know what is the area of that. Well, how do we find the area? We do our length times our width, right? So we're going to do 2 times 9. That should be easy for you. You know what 2 times 9 is. It's 18. Now draw a sketch of the art table in the empty space below. Oops, sorry about that. We already did that. All right, I had to move my little recording thing. I couldn't read that. So it said to draw a sketch of the art table in the empty space below, which we did, and write a number model to show how you solve that problem. So right here, we're going to write that number model that we did. So we did a 2 feet by 9 feet equals 18 square feet. Now, number 2, it says a new art table is 4 feet wide and 9 feet long. So use doubling and your number models from problem 1 to find the new area. Sketch and write a number model to show your work below. So boys and girls, let's go ahead and use the doubling. I want you to now change this new art table to be 4 feet wide and 9 feet long. Go ahead and pause that video. All right, so if I was making it 4 feet wide, I had to do another 2 feet, right? Then this is still going to stay the same. So now 4 times 9, what would that be? If this is 18, and all I'm doing is doubling it, 18 and 18 is 36. Okay, so my new number model, there's my sketch, and my new number model is 4 times 9 equals 36. All right, let's go ahead and do some more problems together just on paper or whiteboard. I kind of want to really look at this doubling a little bit more. So what do you know about doubling? You know when you double a number, what happens? You get an even number no matter what, right? Anytime you're doubling, you're going to get an even number. So boys and girls, anytime that I'm doing times 2, now times 2 is easy to do, right? If I double times 2, what is that going to be? That will be times 4. Could I use times 2 to help me do times 4? So, for example, if I have, let's say, 2 times 6. 2 times 6 is what? It's 12, right? That's easy. Could I use that to help me do 4 times 6? If I just doubled that 2, what would 4 times 6 be? Using the doubling strategy, all I got to do is double 12. 12 and 12 is 24. Now wait, could I use that again? What if I doubled the 4 and did 8 times 6? Isn't that just doubling the 4? So if I have a 4 by 6 and I double it and do another 4 by 6, that's 8 by 6, right? Well, if the 4 by 6 was 24, and I know that already, what would 8 times 6 be? 24 and 24 is 48. Okay, so that is the doubling strategy. If I know anything times 2, I could use that, double it. Now I can do times 4. And then if I know that times 4, I can double that, and I can do times 8. All right, there's one more problem to do in your workbook. On the next page, I think the page is 165. And it wants us to solve 8 times 9. It says use doubling and your number models from problem 2 to help you solve 8 times 9. Now in problem 2, you already knew that 4 times 9, you already had that figured out, and you knew that 4 times 9 was 36. Now go ahead and double that. Do another 4 times 9, so that now you have 8 times 9. What will be your answer? Pause your video. All right, if I know that 4 times 9 is 36, I'm going to double that, 36 here and another 36 here, and 72 would be my answer. So my new number model is 8 times 9 equals 72. All right, boys and girls, we are actually going to practice this doubling strategy again tomorrow. So you'll get some more practice with that. But for now, I would like you to turn to page 166. We still have, let's see, we have another page in our workbook that goes along with this lesson, and it's just another review. So you're going to be on page 166. This is a bar graph, and it's got some questions down below. This is bar graph about books checked out in July. And so we can look down at our categories here. We've got realistic fiction, nonfiction, fantasy, mystery, and drama. Those are the kinds of books checked out in July. And then always pay attention to your scale. Our number of books is over there to the left-hand side. It looks like our scale is counting by tens. And so I want you to go ahead and pause the video, and I want you to answer these questions, and then restart the video, and I'll go over it for you to check your work. All right, so looking at number 1, it says how many more fantasy books were checked out than mystery books? So boys and girls, I am comparing fantasy books with mystery books. When I'm finding how many more, I am comparing. That means I'm finding the difference. What kind of math do we do when we're finding the difference? I'm going to subtract between those two, right? So fantasy books, I have 60. I always like to write the number at the top there. It helps me out. And mystery books, I have, it goes halfway in between that bar, so that's going to go to 35. And so boys and girls, I'm going to subtract 60 minus 35, and that is going to give me my answer of how many more fantasy books there are. Now, subtraction is one strategy, or if you like to use your bar graph and count how many more to go from here to here, just remember, this is going from here to here is another 5 because my scale is counting by tens. This whole section is a 10, and this whole section is a 10. So how many more fantasy books? And in this case, I can add those up, and I would have 25. Okay, so you can subtract, or you can look visually to find the difference. You just have to be careful that you're looking carefully at your scale. All right, so let's look at number 2. It says how many fewer drama books were checked out than realistic fiction. So this time I'm comparing drama to realistic fiction, and how many fewer is another one of those comparison words. So I'm going to subtract. Realistic fiction, I've got 30, and drama, I've got, again, this is halfway in between a bar, so it would be 15. So I would do 30 minus 15. That's pretty easy math. Makes me think of a clock, right? 30 minutes minus 15 minutes equals 15. Or again, if you're going to look visually, that's fine. You can go from here to here, but remember that's 5. And then you have a whole nother, because we're going to go to here, a whole nother box, which is 10. So when you add those up, it's 15. All right, number 3 says, how many books were checked out all together? Now, boys and girls, if I'm finding out how many books are checked out all together, I'm going to have to add up every single one of these bars. So I have 30 here, I have 55 here, I have 60 here, and I have 35 here, and I have 15 here. Now, I could go ahead and I could add all of these numbers. Let's see here. I got to make sure I get them all written down. Make sure I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I should have 5 numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, now I can add a whole string of numbers. Go ahead and add all my ones. So 5, 10, 15. Put my 5, carry my 10 ones over to my tens place, add up all my tens. I've got 6 plus 5 is 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and 19. So 195 books were checked out all together. Now I'm going to check myself. 195 books. I'm going to check myself by counting the bars now, counting these spaces. So I've got, let's see here. I'm going to go ahead and start with my 60. So I know that I've got 60 here. 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, 120, 130, 140. I'm going to save this 5. 150, 160, 170. Put these two 5s together. That would give me 180. 190, and this is 5, so 195. So I can also count my spaces on my bars as well, but again, pay attention to the scale. You're counting by tens, and if it's a half a space, you need to add only 5. Number 4, it says a librarian found that the total number of nonfiction and drama books checked out in August was double the total checked out in July. So how many total nonfiction and drama books were checked out in August? So this is a bar graph for July, but they're giving us information that says that the total number of nonfiction and drama books checked out in August was double that in July. So what am I going to have to do to find that answer? And hopefully you really kind of gave this a good effort. So first I needed to find out how many nonfiction and drama books, right? So let's go to nonfiction and drama. Let me erase all my chicken scratches from earlier. So I'm doing nonfiction and drama, and I'm going to put those together. So I've got 55 plus 15, right? Well, 55 plus 15, when I add those together, okay, I've got 60 plus 5 and 5 is 10, so that's 70. Now that's how many was checked out in July. But it says twice as many. It was double in August. So if I take this number and double it, 70 and 70 is 140 books. All right, and finally, number 5, it says use information from the bar graph to write your own question, then answer it. So boys and girls, this is, I mean, you could have many different questions here, but bar graphs are always going to tell us things like what kind of book was checked out the most? What was the most common kind of book checked out? Whoops, meant to erase that, not write some more. So you could look at the bar graph to find out what was the most popular book being checked out. Well, fantasy, right? Because the bar is the tallest. What was the least common book checked out? And so drama. Maybe we could find the difference between those two, between the most checked out and the least checked out. So find the difference between fantasy and drama. So bar graphs tell you things like what was the most popular, what was the least popular. You can compare how many more, how many less. You can also kind of combine and say, well, how many people checked out fantasy and mystery? And we could add those together. So you could have all kinds of questions there. All right, boys and girls, that is it for Math Message 5-5.